don't know if you've seen Jerome Adams, our illustrious Surgeon General of the United States, out there doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down that we should not wear masks. It's unbelievable. This is going to go down in history. Uh, in the future, there'll be university courses taught, and they'll have like probably videos. They'll probably show videos of him telling millions of people in the United States and around the world during the middle of a or the front edge of a pandemic not to wear masks. I mean, you just can't make up this stuff. It's just what can you do with it? You can see where these anti-vaxxers have become so suspicious of the government. Let me make sure this is feeding out. I'll put up comments here. Five by Tony Martinez says, great. eBay ripped you off. Aloha, Donnie girl. All right, good. So it looks like it is feeding out. So yeah, unbelievable that the Surgeon General and others still double down that we shouldn't wear masks, when in reality it's because they did not stockpile masks in advance, even though they've all known there'll be more pandemics, because pandemics are actually quite common. They're not uncommon at all. They're just not normally this severe, or at least, they happen every, couple, few generations. The last huge one of this size would probably be 1918. But in any case, hello in Texas, and hello Needy in Arizona, and hello in Cincinnati. Well, let's get going. And then I'll answer as many questions. I'll get through the main points very quickly. First of all, is that Jerome Adams, the U.S. Surgeon General, is a naval officer. He's out there. He is a super spreader. He is, as I've mentioned before, it's as if the virus has a public affairs office or a public affairs officer, and that public affairs officer is Jerome Adams, the U.S. Surgeon General. You just can't make it up that the top doctor in the United States is telling people not to use the one item that is most important to stop the spread of this disease, which is a mask. He's actually, I don't even know what to do with that. I mean, that's just, the weirdest thing is that they all know that we can see that they're lying. I mean, we see it constantly. I've been saying it for how long now? A couple of months. I mean, I bought extra masks in January to give out. I bought 600 masks in January just to give out to people. I already had my own mask, but so you see these anti-vaxxers. Well, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Last year, before I was going to return to India, and then the insurgency kicked up in Hong Kong. But I got a bunch of vaccinations before I was going to return to India, because, India, you need vaccinations if you got a brain. And so I got a whole bunch. Gosh, it must have been, I don't know, about 12 shots or something. And bottom line is, would I even want a vaccination for She's disease, CCP virus? Would I even want one? Because I'm not going to trust, if they rush a vaccine through, say, in 18 months, do I want to stick that in my arm, or however you're going to have to take this thing? I don't trust them. Trust is broken, shattered, absolutely shattered. And it's not something that you can just go, okay, now he's telling the truth. It doesn't work like that. And so these anti-vaxxers whom they always try to make look crazy suddenly don't look so crazy. Right. And let's keep going. I'm going to answer as many questions as possible. But let's get, it's time for everybody to pull out their Superman capes, because everybody here, we are in a war. This is a huge war. It's been going on for many, many years, actually. CCP has been at war with us, the Chinese Communist Party, but now this virus has been unleashed, however it got out there. And things that maybe seemed conspiratorial not very long ago suddenly don't. Again, let's go back to the vaccinations. These anti-vaxxers who really always, because the cameras always go to the ones who look the craziest, obviously, and they try to make you look crazy. And so they'll find the craziest anti-vaxxer there is out there. And again, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I just got a bunch last year to return to India. But they'll find the craziest anti-vaxxer possible and get them to say whatever, and they'll be on. And then they have this very steady doctor going, well, without this, it'll kill all the other kids at school, that sort of thing. But then we see the Surgeon General of the United States saying, don't wear masks, when we know for a fact that the number one protective gear is for this particular disease is a mask, hands down. And it's, short of social isolation and staying, in a submarine, if you're going to go out among people, number one item is a mask. And people will say, well, the masks don't work perfectly. No, they don't. You're not going out in an astronaut suit ready for a spacewalk. But at the same time, they work very well. That's clear. Even the surgical mask, not the N95s, which I have. I use N95s, but any mask works. You use it. I mean, I don't like these kinds of masks. I don't wear them. I bought a bunch of these to give them away because I could afford more of them. I can't afford to give everybody the kind of mask I wear. It costs $20 each. I can't afford to give 600 of those out, right? And so, but anyway. Masks. What can you do? But everybody needs to first take care of yourself, obviously. Rule number one, take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't help anybody else. So first, you have to take care of yourself. Number one item, put on your mask, put on the child's mask, when the cockpit, when the oxygen mask drops. Otherwise, the child can't put your mask on. And also, if you're not taking care of yourself, not only can you not take care of somebody else, but suddenly you're a casualty and somebody has to take care of you. And so every day, think about, how can I take care of myself? And then who can I help? Help at least one person every day. And then at the end of the day, shoot one poison arrow at the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, either by not buying something or by writing something bad about them on the internet or something. There is something you can do every day. Do it. Now, this incremental, I'm going to answer as many questions as possible, by the way, but I'm going to say a few things first. We're getting deeper and deeper into this now. It's really just kicking off in the United States. People keep saying, well, it might peak in 2 weeks. And they leave out, generally speaking, that, well, maybe it will peak in New York in 2 weeks or a month. Nobody actually knows. Even the experts that are right there collecting data, the super experts with the supercomputers and the super data and everything that they need, they don't know either. There's too much voodoo involved here. So, I mean, but it's not going to peak in 2 weeks or a month. That's just New York City. Then there's all these other places, and it does not look like we're going to get a summer respite. It does not look like this thing yields for warm weather, is the way it's starting to look. And so, like, Thailand is about to get hit. I'm in Thailand. I'm in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And warm weather places are going to definitely get hit. It's clear. And so we're going to see Detroit, Miami, Atlanta, Chicago. We're going to see, Minneapolis. We're going to see Kansas City. We're going to see New Orleans, man. We're going to see Los Angeles. Seattle, of course, is already, getting some coming at them. And all across America, big cities and small, including small cities. Like, I'm from Florida. I got friends all over Florida. I just got a message about an hour ago from Florida talking about how ill-prepared they are. Just one message I've gotten from all over the United States from various nurses and doctors from many different practices is they've been ordered not to wear masks in front of patients or they'll be fired. I don't even know where they come up with this stuff. And so, I mean, so the super spreaders, nosocomial infection, can come right from the nurse or the doctor. It's unbelievable. Talk about super spreaders. Will be the nurses and doctors. I mean, this will be stuff for history books. What we're Surgeon General, don't wear masks. You won't, they're difficult to wear. It's like we can ride bicycles. We can drive cars. It's we can operate computers. We can even operate, these things, which are far more complex than any mask I've ever seen. Even the most, difficult to wear military mask isn't more complicated than a TV remote control. And it's unbelievable. So I'm going to get to those questions. I want to say a few things, and then I'm just going to answer questions. To get down to the total deaths, for instance, we're not going to know what they are because they're being written down as this, that, and the other. That's clear. Medical experts are saying, well, it could be annotated as something else, like pneumonia. Or, we just don't know. Are they even being tested for the disease before they're buried or incinerated, right? I mean, we don't even know. I think the only way we're going to get a reasonable estimate of the actual mortality is to, over a period of time, look at the actual numbers in a country like the United States, where we actually keep death certificates and death statistics, is to just look at the total number of deaths, this year over periods of the similar periods of the year in the years past. I think that's the only way we're going to actually really get an idea. And of course, with that, you're going to include all the secondary issues that happened. For instance, people that die from, something they just couldn't get admitted for something else they would have been saved from, but the hospitals are full. So yeah, I think personally, I'm 7 days a week looking at this, listening to as many experts as possible, and trying to figure out who, you would think that the Surgeon General of the United States would know more than me with no medical training other than how to put on a tourniquet. But I know to wear a mask. And so my superpower is trying to figure out, and I'm quite good at it. You've seen people that read my work for years know that I know how to find the right people to listen to. And don't listen to him. Based on what I'm seeing and what the people that I think are most credible, I think the ultimate deaths will be in the tens of millions. 50, 100 million, I don't know. Nobody knows. That's globally. But it's, unless there's some magic cure like chloroquine. Notice I'm not talking about that much, because in every time we see a situation like this, which is pretty often actually, like here we've got the next, solution for AIDS, or the next solution for this, and the next solution for that. Oh, that didn't work. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's a tendency for everybody to lean over their skis right now, to lean forward. And because we want to see a cure, or something at least, something highly therapeutic, that can get us through this thing, right? And it may be out there, but it probably is, but just got to be really careful, especially at times like this when emotions are high, because this is the biggest event that's happened in any of our lifetimes. There's nobody alive watching this that has ever seen something bigger happen. There may have been something bigger happen to you. Certainly there's been bigger things that happened to me personally, but there's nothing bigger that's happened to the world I've been in since I've been alive. In fact, I think this is, if it continues to go the way it is now, this will be the most significant event in human history if it continues to go the way it is now. Because there will be famines that come out of this. There will be wars that come out of this. How many do I think are infected in Thailand? Chanan is asking. Looking at the numbers, well, here, let's look at the numbers. Let's just look at them here. How about we will look at the numbers. Here we go. Let's see. Let's see if you can see this screen. I don't know if it's popping up if my screen is popping up on your screen. So I'm going to look on this. Do you see the screen? Let's see. If you do see the screen, you can see the total confirmed globally is 838,000. Now, we know that number is nonsense because, let's see. We know that number is nonsense because, yeah, it looks like you can see my screen. We know that number is nonsense because, because, for instance, China is clearly lied. That much is clear, right? And China has vastly understated their numbers. We can see that much. That is very obvious. I'm looking at another screen over here. I'm sorry. And because I want to tell you something else, and I need to get it off this screen. Just one moment, please. Okay. Let's see. There we go. All right. I see. Okay, I see what you're seeing on my other screen. Okay, good. So it's looking right. So let's look at United States, 177,000 cases here, right? Now, we know that's BS because we're not testing very many. It's taken us a long time, and our tests have been unreliable, and so that's been a problem, right? And Italy, as you can see, is I can't make the actual hyper screen pop up here, but Italy has got about 12,000 fatalities now. United States, what is about 3,000 or so. It's changing so quickly. Italy, it looks like 12,428 according to this, and France 3,500, Spain 8,300. It's just picking up. Iran is we don't trust those numbers. About 3,000 though, and United Kingdom about 1,800. So it's really it's just getting started. We're not really in the big fight yet. We're just watching it come in on us. Let's see here. Let me go back to the other screen. All right, and let me look at a few more things I wanted to say, and then I'm just going to answer questions, as many as I can answer. Yeah, Thailand is ramping up. I mentioned to Steve Bannon tonight, by the way. I just sent him a message. I was like, it'd be good to see somebody on your show that goes over just the overall change in mortality, because there's going to be a lot of, funny stuff with the numbers. And we're not going to, the only way we're going to be able to see how this is really, take a guess about how this has really affected our overall mortality is just to look at overall mortality. But in reality, there's so many other factors here. We've got the economy, of course, possibly up to now estimation of maybe 32% could be unemployed soon. I don't know where they round that off to 2%, but 32%. But I don't know if you've ever been to a country that had even 15% unemployment. But if you go to a country with 15% unemployment, it's like bang, it's a big deal. I think in the Great Depression in the United States, we had about 25% unemployment, I think. And now they're estimating possibly over 30. Of course, we know how wrong our experts are continuously, but what can be seen very clearly is that this is severe, and it's going to badly damage our economy and so many other things. Now, I want to say one more thing about food shortages. Then I'm going to start answering just as many questions as possible. It looks like some food shortages are starting to kick up in some places in Italy, and as I've been warning since January, stock up on food, at least 4 months of food and water, so that you don't need any resupply whatsoever at all for 4 months. Like, you've got all the water you need. If it doesn't rain and your tap doesn't work, you got all the water you need, right? And you can do the calculations. There's calculators online that can, what kind of children do you have, what kind of weather, you know what I mean, that sort of thing. You can add it up. And you got a dog, you got a water and everything else. Just garden. You'll have to do your own calculations, because for everybody it'll be different. But food wise, I cannot recommend strongly enough. You need to stock up now if you still can, for every reason. First of all, food prices are not going to go down. There is no way food prices are going to go down at this point. So in that regard, it's a great investment. Secondly, inflation almost certainly is going to go way up, right? And so food supply is already going to be, it's going to be impinged. I mean, you can see that supply lines will be stretched. Are our truckers going to be able to keep trucking? We need them on the front lines. There's so many sorts of frontline work people we have now, whether it's medical, nurses, doctors. They're going to take thousands of casualties and possibly thousands of nurses and doctors killed in just in the United States. Possibly. We don't know, because they're going to take, just like our infantry soldiers and our combat troops take most casualties in war. Likewise, right now, those are our nurses and doctors and other medical personnel. That's the cutting edge, right? Not to mention law enforcement, airline people that they should be grounded. Actually, we shouldn't have any flights in the United States. I've been saying that since January. It's too late for that now. At some point, it becomes irrelevant almost. It's not irrelevant, but it becomes, let's say, less relevant than it could have been. But in helping at least one person per day, if you know any medical people that are on the front line, definitely reach out to them and say, hey, I know you're tired. What do you need me to do? Tell me a couple things that are within my capability. You need me to go shop for food for you? Do you need me to take care of something at your house? You got a dog? You got fish that need to be fed? Whatever, I'll do it. Just tell me what it is. Give me the mission. I will complete the mission, period. Without question, it will be done right. It will be done better than you normally do it. So that eases their mind. The more that their mind is eased, that was a problem I had sometimes in the wars. When I had good people covering my back, then my mind was eased. I could focus on combat. When I had, at a couple times, I had people that weren't very effective covering my back, and that was actually as stressful as the combat, because I would actually be out in the war and then come back. Well, it's always be in the war, and then they didn't, and then I had to like clean their diapers almost, right? But so when you got a good team around you and you're like, here's the mission, I know this person's going to accomplish it well, it takes a lot of stress off of people. So if you know law enforcement, like a cop or FBI agent or DA or truck driver or anybody that we need on the front line, doctors and nurses, of course, tell them you'll do something to help them out. And when you do it better than they've ever done it, so that they're happy, because they're not going to be happy, actually, but we can help them be less stressed. And so I want to say it one more time. Be ready for electrical and water outages. Just be ready. Have lots of candles. Have lots of batteries if you need them. Battery chargers that can work solar if you got that sort of stuff. And if you can't store all the water that you need, there's water all over the place in a lot of countries. You just use a water filter, right? Like I use a Catadine filter. I use a Catadine pocket filter. It's a very good filter. And I've got actually a Berkey on the way. Berkey. So I'll be able to, that way a Berkey, you can just pour it over and I don't have to. Anyway, bottom line, let me start out answering questions. I just want to say, even though the stores are full still right now in a lot of places, it's going to happen very suddenly. And the government idea of don't cause panic is absolutely stupid, because what they're going to do is they're going to cause panic when there actually is like a reason to panic. Not you should always be calm in any case. But what I'm saying is if everybody was shopping when I was saying it back in January, so what if everybody pulled everything off the shelves? It wouldn't matter. They'll just restock them the next day. There's no stress. Not that many people infected yet. You can still do what you're going to do, but do it with haste. You know what I mean? Don't waste time, but you don't have to rush. You don't have to, run around the grocery store. You can walk up and down every aisle, take your time, that sort of stuff. Go back another time if you needed to. That's January and part of February. Then you start getting it later in February, and you're like, hey, now this is getting a little bit serious. Now you get into March, you're like, this is really, really serious. Now you get into April, you are at war. You are at straight up war. And at any moment now, the whole Sam's Club could be emptied. And I mean, like, not just that Sam's Club and Costco and all the rest, Walmart and Publix and Kroger, but all the other ones, right? And so, and worse, the truck drivers might not be trucking because they're sick or whatever. Warehouse workers out sick. I mean, this is no joke. You need to stock up now, because there are still a lot of supply lines open. What are you going to do when the supply lines really do go down? What is the agriculture going to be like later this year? Remember, other things don't stop happening at times like this. They often snowball. For instance, we're still going to have a hurricane season. We'll still have earthquakes on their normal random schedule. There'll still be tornadoes ripped down through Tennessee and Kansas and everywhere else, Florida. There's all other stuff still happens. China is feeling frisky. There could be wars. There will be wars. Whether we're involved or not is unclear to me. But so, and remember, all these other countries out here, they need food too. and they're going to be competing for that food. The United States grows a lot of our own food, but how I've been reading some of the specialists in agriculture talking, and I'm trying to sort out who knows what they're talking about, who doesn't, because but that's America. But then there's the rest of the world. There's all these other countries over here. Most countries don't have the sort of food security that the United States has. But how secure will our food be actually if our grid goes down? How secure will our grid be? How secure will our food network be if, for instance, China uh, really gets hanky panky on us? You know, they can cut off our medicine. I've said that over and over. They can cut off our medicine, and because they make really all of our serious pharmaceuticals. I mean, and India's already cut us off. So you're going to have a lot of Americans and Thais and other people that are going to die already just because they're not going to get their medicine, period. That's a done deal. It's just, you're just not going to get it unless you can find some other way to do it. Maybe you're really somebody that thinks out of the box and can figure it out, or you got a lot of money and you can get things done through money. But in reality, a lot of people simply are not going to get the medicines that they need, period. And China can cut us off instantly in a heartbeat. Now, let me start answering questions. I'm shooting right to the bottom. Megan is saying, last year it was horrible on farmers in U.S. too. So if you've asked a question way up top, I'm just shooting back at the bottom. So just put it back up again, and I'll try to see it again at the bottom, because there's already so many so many questions up there. Brad is still, why do you think people are still saying the flu is worse? It's because they're stupid. Let's just get down and talk military talk here. It's because they're really stupid. They're that guy. They're just stupid. Stupid people do stupid things. For instance, soldiers are always taught, if you see UXO, unexploded ordnance, right? You see like a bomb that has not exploded. It's not dead. It's just laying there, right? And there's nothing more patient. There's no more patient killer out there than explosives, right? And yet you still have soldiers from, including the U.S. military, that will go up and like throw rocks at an explosive, and get killed. I mean, it's just what we call stupid, but they do it. For instance, an Marine EOD guy told me that in Afghanistan, the Taliban would put up their Taliban flag and they'll put a bomb under the flag, right? So it's bait. And even though all the soldiers are trained, whatever you do, don't go collect, Taliban flags. People will be like, no, there's no bomb out here. And boom, another dead soldier. He told me at least one a year gets killed from the flag, trying to collect the flag, even though they're all warned not to do it. So there you go. So it's called stupid. And stupid people think that this is just the flu. And they are a risk to all of us. So let's see. I'm shooting back down to the bottom pot. Let's see. I'm not sure if India cuts USA off. India sells us cheap 2-ply face mask and charge. India just shut us off. Oh, I don't know if they shut off. India definitely look up India and pharmaceuticals. First of all, they shut off some APIs about more than a month ago, right? Was it 6 weeks ago? Something like that, or 2 months. I don't know. Time is flying and also stretching at times, but they definitely are. They've cut off the export of their generics. And since the United States, our government has completely failed us generation after generation with China, most of our drugs are made in India and China. And so the United States is now going to lose huge numbers of people from not having the drugs they need because of our government, and our businesses. Our government created the conditions, and our business and government together. Of course, none of these things are apart from each other. Our government is made by us. Our government is of us, right? And our businesses are of us. They're not like some separate alien. We're all wrapped in part of this larger thing. And let's see. Max Murrah is saying, it is appropriate to follow indications of isolation for common good. Oh, speaking of isolation, Maddie, uh, she actually did test positive. I didn't say that yesterday because she got it back. It took her how long to get her positive test back? Uh, 11 or 12 days. I think 12 days, right? So she, since the time she took the test until she got her results back that she was positive for the virus, her symptoms were actually leaving her. So now she has to quarantine for another 72. She told me yesterday, but I didn't say it live because she had to tell a few. She had to tell some people that she may have exposed, and so now she's told them. And so there you go. It took that long for Maddie to, and she says she feels normal today. She feels quite good, and so that's great on Maddie. But it's really terrible that it took. Just imagine that's happening all over the United States. People are like, why would I even go to get tested? Well, I mean, what's going to happen to me? Am I going to have to be quarantined? When people are unemployed, they got children, they got to feed and that sort of thing. Yeah. Sharon is saying, Sharon Valentine, how bad is India? I'm not in India, and she says they make tons of meds too. Uh, I did spend 10 months in India. I've been to India numerous times and traveled around a large part of India. And my guess, based on my knowledge of India, is that it may be one of the worst places in the world to be. Um, it's going to be very serious. Very serious. Let's see. I'm looking for. Chris is asking about armed conflict in the United States. I'm sure there are going to be armed confrontations. Let's start at the lowest level. Armed confrontations. That's pretty much going to be a done deal. I mean, a lot of police, hundreds, maybe thousands by now, have already tested positive for the virus, and so they're not even working. And we all know how this plays out in some parts of the United States. In some parts of the United States, it doesn't matter. You don't even need cops because people are law-abiding, and you don't even need laws because they just treat each other well. In some places, you don't even really need laws because people, again, and then there's other places where there's no amount of laws that do any good, and you have to have super heavily armed police and armored vehicles and that sort of thing. In those places, there's rest assured, as sure as tomorrow's sunshine, there'll be a severe increase in criminality. Now, so with armed confrontations, people need to be prepared to defend themselves. And this is why, a lot of Americans like me, we say never, well, that's one reason why, not the only reason, never surrender your weapons. The fact is, that's quite serious. I mean, and for that matter, what's Australia going to do right now? And I've told Australians this for years. What are you going to do if China invades you? What are you really going to do? You're going to depend on the United States. So stop talking shit in that regard, right? Your only help is the United States. What are you going to do if we can't come help you? And every time I bring that up, they're like, what? They're like, first of all, don't bring that up. You're going to throw that card. And I'm like, the card I'm throwing is you need to be prepared to defend yourself against China. China is a proximate and real threat to Australia. You don't have enough weapons and you don't have enough people, and they do. And they can take Australia. Without help from the United States, they can physically take Australia. And what are you going to do about it? You've surrendered your private weapons. I guess your army's going to have to hand out a bunch of weapons or something, and you're going to have to go. I mean, seriously, if the United States has a super problem and we go to real general civil unrest within the United States, which could happen, and everybody knows that. That's why the stimulus package and all these other things are there to bridge, to try to calm things down. But what happens if this thing drags out? And it will drag out, is my sense. This is not a feel-good zone on my pages, right? Feel-good is coming from somebody else, because the people that I'm talking with, I'm trying to say what I think from studying. This is all I do, is study and pay attention to what's happening with this. What is happening? What I see, what I sense at this point is that, well, the United States will go into a depression. It's not going to be a recession. And I've been saying that for a while. I'm not an economist, but at some point you don't you don't need to be an orthopedic surgeon to know when somebody fell off a ladder and they got a bone sticking out of their femur that they got a compound fracture, right? And you don't need to be an economist or Bill Gates or some big business person to realize that if business stops, you know what I mean? I mean, and business is clearly stopping, right? It's grinding. A lot of it is grinding to a halt. And so when we go into a depression, which I think that we will, what is going to happen when a lot of people can't get paid? First of all, let's say we do have 30% unemployment or higher. Remember, the Great Depression was only 25% unemployment. And I've been to countries with like 10, 15, or even more unemployment. But when you go to a country with 15% unemployment, it's pretty tense. It's not a nice situation, right? It's not good. If we get up to 30, how's the IRS going to collect money when there's nobody making money enough to collect? Then how's people going to get their food stamps and all these sorts of things? How are people going to get these other things? And there's no medicines for them anyway, right? Think about that. Think about it when the cops are not on the streets and you are on your own. You are the roof Korean, right? For people who don't know what roof Koreans are, that's a high compliment from Americans like me. When there was huge riots in Los Angeles and people were out raping and murdering and looting, and Koreans got together with their weapons, and some got up on their roofs and some were in their parking lots, and they were defending their families and their friends and their property. And everybody's suddenly a roof Korean, right? And if you don't have weapons and you've been really against guns, well, that's really actually opportune for those of us who are really, I'm not in America at this moment, but I'll be back. And I have weapons at home, right? But for those who have been really anti-gun and everybody knows it, well, hopefully they'll eat you first, because that's what's going to happen if you're not able to defend yourself. And this is the bottom line: if people start coming in to hurt your family or you, if you're in Florida, you have no duty to retreat, and I suggest you don't. I'm just saying what I would do. What I would do is defend my neighborhood and defend my home and defend my family and property. And so if it comes down to that, you need to psychologically prepare yourself and visualize how you're going to handle situations so that if it comes to that, first of all, you don't make a mistake and accidentally hurt somebody that you should not have hurt. So if you work through it in your mind, you'll be more disciplined and not hurt somebody that you should not have hurt. Likewise, you won't hesitate if it comes to the situation where you need to hurt them and you need to do it like right now, not 5 seconds from now. So you need to work through it in your mind, like where is that line? If they cross this line, then I go, guns up, right? You need to work that through in your mind, rehearse it in your mind. That makes it safer for everybody. So that, first of all, you don't want to accidentally hurt somebody. You get all excited and you're like, but if you practice it in your mind and that sort of thing, you're more likely to be calm, and hopefully nobody will get hurt that shouldn't be hurt. But definitely be prepared to defend yourself. My families live in Bangkok, Thailand. They mentioned, this is a comment from Pota Jamarn. They mentioned food shortages and increasing prices on several food items, eggs, meat, seafood, etc. It happens everywhere, even here in Washington State. Oh, yeah. That's why I've been warning Thais, and I'm warning my Hong Konger friends, and some of my Japanese friends still don't take it seriously. Food prices are not going to go down. It's, if nothing else, it's a good investment, because what's your real chance of losing your investment if you buy long shelf life food? I mean, not big, you know what I mean? Unless your house burns down or somebody steals it from you. There's not a big chance, right? If long shelf life and you guarded it against pests like rats or whatever, then you don't have, then it's not, you're going to get your money back when you eat it. But if the food prices go up, and the chances of food prices going up are, somewhere hovering around 99%, and inflation, what are the chances that money is not going to inflate in countries around the world? Not high. So, I would highly suggest continuing to stock up now on everything that you might need, and including even books you might want to read, that sort of thing. Hello in Wisconsin. Say hello to Jan Janssen. Hello. Let me see here. I'm scrolling down to the bottom. Yeah, always practice in your mind. That's like one of those, it's for sports or for military. Uh, you know, sport. I was doing that in sports since I was a little kid because our coaches always teach us, rehearse in your mind, rehearse in your mind. When you're laying in bed at night, you're thinking about your football. You know what I mean? You're thinking about how to, how I'm going to make the play before you fall asleep. You know what I mean? You're thinking about sports, or you're thinking about, or if you're in the military, you're thinking about how to do stuff. You know what I mean? So that you rehearse it over and over in your head. Then when you're physically rehearsing it, that's even better. But often you can't physically rehearse it, for every reason. Like right now, I can tie knots in my mind without even touching the. You for, let me tell you, what knot am I doing right now? What knot was that? That's right. A lot of people know that was an end of line bowling, right? I can practice. I can practice knots. I can practice knots without even having a rope. You know what I mean? It's just army training. Another army training is, if you got stress in your life, here's how to handle stress. You take it and you beat it in the head and you throw it over that mountain, right? That's the army way of doing it. Take it, beat it in the head, and you throw it over that mountain. I mean, if you're from Florida, we don't have any mountains, so you need to feed it to an alligator or something. Maybe throw it in the water. But of course, if you're in Thailand, you'll light a candle and let it float away at Kom Loi. You see all those thousands of Kom Lois you see every year in Thailand. They're incredibly beautiful. That's when you're letting your troubles go away. So light a Kom Loi and let it release it and take your troubles away. That's the Buddhist Thai way, real peaceful. The army way is smash it in the head and throw it over the mountain. So we've got different ways of handling it, but one way or the other, the stress goes away, right? Just Don says, my husband used to rehearse surgeries in his mind. I bet he was a great surgeon, because that's people that rehearse will tend to just, it's an old technique, and I think it came from probably centuries ago. I don't know, because it didn't come with our generation. People were already doing that, and it works. Let's talk one more time about the food. And panic when you know when the government is, whatever government, Thai, American, whatever, is always like, well, we can't tell them the truth because they'll panic. It's like, hello, listen. When hurricanes come, everybody doesn't just jump off a building, right? You know what I mean? Some prepare, most prepare or leave, and some don't, and some of them die, and it's like, sayonara, you screwed up, and so out of the gene pool, right? So I mean, it's that bottom, this big boy rules, right? And but a problem with the government's continuing to lie is that now you get, and they're like, oh, it'll be over. We'll just hunker down for April, 30 days to save America. I love that. I love that saying. And I know where they're coming from with it. It's great. But it's not going to be 30 days. That's not realistic. That's bullshit. It's going to be a lot longer. Now, others will say, don't do that. Then, because they'll quit. And I'm like, I understand your mentality, because some people quit easily, but here's the bottom line. You need to be prepared for something much longer than that. Be prepared for it, because otherwise you get, now let's say it's into June, and you're not prepared, and you only had 2 weeks of food, and you've been out of food, and you're losing weight, right? And there you go. And then people will be panicking and fighting because they don't have food. And I want to go back to say something that's very important. I've been saying it for a while. You need to be, your level of preparation has to be related to how prepared those are around you. If everybody around you is highly prepared, then your preparation level doesn't need to be quite, crazy high, because everybody's got enough, right? But if everybody around you is not prepared, well, then every little chicken that comes into town is going to get snatched off the market, right? So that means you have to have more to hold up longer. When everybody's not prepared, you need to be prepared more. Now, the proper prepper, the person who's prepared well, will definitely have more than they ever needed. I mean, you'll get to the end of this thing and you'll go, man, Mike told me we needed 4 months, and really, I only needed two. Man, 2 months, too much food, right? Well, a proper prepper always looks crazy because he'll always or she'll always have too much on the other side of the emergency because what we know from generations, centuries of life before us is that it can be a lot worse than we imagine, and then or something else happened, more wildfires or whatever, and there you go. You just suddenly 4 months is not enough. So there you go. Let's see. Let me try to answer questions down here. And I've said everything I needed to say, and so I'm just answering questions now. So if you wanted to punch out, but we can chat for until y'all get tired or I get tired. It's 3 a.m. here, 3:09. Studying all day. Let's see. Some sites are saying this is all to do with 5G. People keep sending me stuff on 5G. I'm not jumping into all these conspiracies now. I think it's to do with this virus. But I'm just conspiracies they go viral as well. That's why and they conspiracy theories go. Wow, a lot of people are sending me this 5G stuff. I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying, I'll tell you what I'm focused on: being prepared and making as many people prepared as possible. So many people that have come on my pages have said, "Hey, I prepared thanks, to you," and the prices have gone up in so and so place. And trust me, they're going to go up a lot more if this continues the way that it's going. And there is no indication at this point that this is going to be anything less than catastrophic. There's no indication that I'm getting that this is going to be suddenly magically disappear. The indications that I'm getting watching this 7 days a week and every waking hour is it will be catastrophic. Let's see. All right. Jesse Taylor, for those who haven't followed you and our poster girl, Maddie, can you give them a timeline of her illness and progress report, though through it might be happy, upset? Actually, I will. Let me see if she sent a message since I've been on. She said, because I asked her if she wanted to come on live and she couldn't because she had to do a phone call or something. Let me see if Maddie sent a message. Oh, okay. I'm just going to tell. Okay. I said, I'm on live now. Live now. Let me see if she wants to come on. I'll say, can you come on? All right. If not, I'll give you the timeline anyway. But I just sent Maddie those two messages. Let's see. So Maddie is 22 years old. She's in Denver, Colorado. I got to know her with a lot of other medics and journalists, and she was a human rights observer. And so we're all out in the fighting all the time. So all these journalists and medics and whatnot got to know each other. And so, she's calling right now. Hold on. Hey, hold on. Hey, Maddie. Maddie. Can't hear her. Hey, if you want to go on, I can do that, but I have to plug the phone into the computer system. It'll take a couple minutes. Can you go on now? Okay, let me okay, hold on. I'll call you back, okay? All right. All right, bye. All right, good. Well, you just heard it. We'll get Maddie on. But that means I got to get my headphones. Let's see. All right, so we'll let Maddie explain. But Maddie just had the virus. And I'm sorry, let me get my headphones and we'll get Maddie on. 2-minute break. BRB. Be right back. Okay, let's get Maddie on. Get Maddie on the line here. And you guys can answer whatever questions you want to ask. You can ask Maddie. But Maddie got exposed to the disease on, yeah, it's working. Maddie got exposed on March 9th, as I recall. Let's call Maddie right now. Uh-oh, Maddie, I don't hear you. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Sorry about that. Slight malfunction, Maddie. I don't know if you can hear me. Maddie? Uh-oh. Call me back, please, Maddie, if you can hear me. Please call me back. Sorry about that. But let's see if Maddie can answer questions. Okay, here we go. Maddie? Oh, Lord. Let's see. Maddie, you there? Earth calling Maddie. Uh-oh. No. Don't have you on, Maddie. You got that? Nope. Nope. No, Maddie. Well, Maddie, I don't know what to say here. Other than this is not working. So it's not going to work. Maddie, can you come on and answer in the comment section if you got a few minutes? Maddie? Why is this not working? Hello? Well, it's not going to work. All right, Maddie's coming on the comments to answer. Sorry about that. I don't know what the malfunction is. Should be working. Computers. All right. All right, so that's it. No, the mic is okay. I don't know what the deal is. But so, yeah, Maddie did test positive. She did test positive, and she's coming on the comments section now. And why is my hat crooked? Let's see here. And I don't know why this is not working. It's quite strange. It should be working. I don't see anything that's plugged in incorrectly. Well, Maddie had COVID, and there she is. There's Maddie right there. Hi, okay, you can ask Maddie a question. There's Madeline Kelly. You can see she's on in the comments right now. So Madeline had it. She tested positive. She got the results back a couple days ago. She got exposed on about March 9th, and she knows who exposed her. So Maddie can answer in the comments. Hey, Lisa in Fort Worth. I do have a mixer board, Tommy. It's sitting right in front of me. That's not the problem. The problem is something's not working. I have a mixer board. I've been doing this whole thing on the mixer board. Let's see. Maddie is in Denver. I don't see her answering, though, so wish we could get her on the line here. Don, Maddie did not get any treatments other than, like, oh, there she is. Maddie's leaving a comment right there. What did she say? So Maddie says, so I was told that if I am symptom-free for 72 hours, then I am okay to leave quarantine. You can see that's witchcraft magic. How do they know? How do they know it all? They don't. That is unbelievable. That is our medical system just rolling the dice on people's lives. I mean, seriously, nobody should be released from quarantine until they test and it's negative. It is absolutely insane to give that sort of advice, that sort of medical advice. No symptoms for 72 hours? We'll just assume you're okay. We've already seen, for instance, Look at all these instances that you may have already seen already, where one person basically wiped out a nursing home, and how many people got it in that nursing home? There was, oh gosh, more than 100 got it from one person, and quite a few died actually from one person, right? And then there was that funeral that a lot of people, that one person went to with it, and got, practically the entire family got it. And then there was a wedding down in Australia. So there's so many cases like this where one person shows up and just knocks everybody out. Like there was that funeral, whatever it was. You can find it online with a quick web search. There was the wedding in Australia. Somebody flew in from the United States and infected most of the wedding, apparently. There was that nursing home that just wiped out the nursing home, one case, and killed quite a lot of people. How many was that on that nursing home? Uh, anyway, there's so many cases like this. And you remember back in February, people kept asking me, hey, I got a wedding so-and-so or a funeral so-and-so. Should I go? And I was like, I don't think so. I mean, you're going to have to make your own choices, but, you know, I wouldn't have the wedding now. I mean, true love will wait. And now there was, for instance, that wedding in Australia that was on, I think, Australian 60 Minutes, which wiped out. I don't know if it's killed anybody so far, but it certainly has made a lot of people sick. There's Madeline Kelly saying something. Maddie is saying, if they could, they would do 2 tests 24 hours apart, but they don't have the ability in the United States of America. So a known case, Maddie, she's a known case, and they're just telling Maddie, well, in 72 hours, you're good to go. They do not know that. They do not know that. That is epic fail of first order magnitude. Literally taking that advice, Maddie could then go to a nursing home and wipe out 200 people. That is really epically wrong on every level. Maddie says, my friend is also sick and he is unable to get the initial test because they are trying to save them, to save tests. When, oh gosh. Let's see. Kirk Miyake is saying, Dr. John Campbell just showed an example from a nursing home. Was it 9 days? I don't know. I know that some nursing homes have been just wiped already. And remember, last month I was repeatedly saying, if you have any loved ones in nursing homes, you need to get them out, like right now. And I don't mean tomorrow. You need to stop what you're doing and stop watching this broadcast, and you need to go to the nursing home and get them now out. That's just waiting to have a bomb dropped on them, basically, because sooner or later somebody's going to bring it into that nursing home and they're going to wipe out the nursing home. It's like the one bee that comes into the hive and wipes out the entire hive. That's what you're looking at. Cecilia Thompson says, lots of care homes here have it now, 3 blocks away from me. Oh man, they're all going to have it eventually. I'm turning down. I hear some background noise. You hear that background noise? You know what that is? That's my air purification system, because the air is so, as humans have so polluted this earth. It is unbelievably sickening. If you look up the air quality index here in Chiang Mai, you'll look at it's incredibly terrible air. And you can see it right now. You can look it up, air quality index. Look up Chiang Mai. Look, that's why you hear that in the background. That's my air purifier, but I'm turning this down so you don't have to listen to it. Making the noise floor lower. But that's why I guess I'll have to talk closer to the mic. Let's see. I'm looking. Here's Maddie saying, even if I'm good to go, I won't be going out in public. It's just sick, Maddie, that they give you that advice without giving you another test. They're rolling the dice with everybody's lives. So many. I mean, as you know, that means tomorrow you could be, 300 miles away in a nursing home and wipe out the nursing home. Unbelievable. Don says our nursing homes are in lockdown in Hawaii. But the thing about these viruses, they are like helium, you know what I mean? Or hydrogen. It's they leak, they get the, they they will find a way to get there. They unless all of the employees never leave. As soon as one leaves and comes back, well, there you go. I mean, there's your alien. There's your alien that potentially is wiping out the entire hive, right? And asymptomatically, right? Lois says you're on Facebook. No Maddie comments showing up. Maddie might be on a different page because this is streaming out to Lois. This is streaming out to my main page, and then I've got a few other pages that might be going out to one of those. Um, so I'm clicking her comments when I see Maddie post them. Iris Law says, "Wow, but it seems not serious to test the virus still positive or not." It's amazing that they shouldn't tell you you're leaving quarantine until. But if we have a shortage of tests because our government is so incompetent, and then I don't know if you've been paying attention, Iris, but our Surgeon General has told the Surgeon General of the United States is the top doctor in the United States, right? Should be the most trusted man or woman in America. Should be your Surgeon General. It should be the one person who you're like, the truth will come out of that person's mouth no matter what. And that's not what we got. We've got the lyingest Surgeon General I've ever heard of. He's telling Americans, thus the rest of the world, don't wear masks. Iris, you can't make up stuff like that. That's the U.S. Surgeon General Jerome Adams, a name that will go down in infamy. Rachel looks finical. You said nursing homes was the first cases in my country. I'm sorry. What country are you in? I'm looking at your name. Oh, that could be like Irish or something, right? Looking at your name. Where are you at, Rachel? Um, David Savage. My friend is a printer repair tech and went to a nursing home last week on a job. The staff let him in, but did take his temperature. Crazy. Barbara says, yes, nursing homes are in great danger. Oh, they sure are. They sure are. It's going to be difficult to truly isolate one. Georgine says she gets Maddie's comments, but they lag a bit. Let's see. SB, Maddie, are you on any blood thinners because of your prior history of embolism? And if so, do you know if they are manufactured overseas? So glad you are doing better. It's a good question. Russell says 13 died in a nursing home in Ontario. Man, it's just going to ravage through nursing homes all over the world. Tommy Barrios, Maddie ought to go over to one of the military bases and fall inside the gate, and then they test her right away. Probably would. It says Weston, Michael, we all need to move Khao Lak. Chiang Mai is done. Yeah. I think a lot of people in Chiang Mai are not preparing, actually. They're not preparing. And that's obviously going to be a problem. Just saw that Jim Jones of Louisiana has just served due to refusing to get. Dana Dean is saying, just saw the Jim Jones of Louisiana was just served due to refusing to not gather. Oh, yeah, this church. Like, there was one, when she says Jim Jones, some people might not know what Dana means, but that's Jim Jones was a cult leader that went down to South America, Guyana, I think, and he actually killed one of our representatives, right? And like a government member, and he got his cult members to do a mass suicide by drinking Kool-Aid. That's why you hear people saying drink the Kool-Aid. Um, let's see what Maddie says here. Madeline, I'm hoping that I can get an antibody test, which would show me if I'm recovered and have immunity. Yeah, that would be really good. And then if you have that, then unless you can become reinfected, which is unknown to me, there's still some question about that. But from what I gather, from what the infectious disease experts are saying, you're probably good to go. Of course, probably is not certainly, but probably. And but again, I'm no expert. We'll know soon enough. Cecilia, problem here is here in BC, that's British Columbia. One nurse works at multiple care homes until just recently. Man, you see, that's that's the typhoid Mary situation, super spreader potentially. Mark Haas is saying Weston 2 died, one recovered. Them. Paula Beth. Hey, Michael from Muffy in Massachusetts. A dozen old soldiers died in a soldier's home. The administrator tried to hide it. The governor has gone after him. Wow. I hope you enjoyed your trip to India, Muffy. I guess you went to photograph tigers. Well, and then you came back to the plague of our lifetimes. You came back to the situation of, well, we live in interesting times, that's for sure. Weirdly, ever since I was a kid, I thought something like this might happen. I don't know why. Just maybe it's because of all the books on things that I've read. Um, because in reality, the chances aren't really that low. They're actually quite high that something really super major will happen in your lifetime if you live, like a average lifetime. Chances are something huge is going to happen in your lifetime. Um, and how this one is going to play out, nobody knows. My main page, Lois Stockwell. What's my main page? It's the one on the top. It's got the fighting in Hong Kong. You see the video, and it's called just Michael Yon. And it's my Facebook Michael Yon fan page, and it's got that video of people throwing Molotov cocktails in Hong Kong. I made that video during the fighting. I want to thank everybody. As I was looking at this other page over here, which reminded me as I saw something go by, I want to thank everybody who's supported my work. Huge, especially now. I mean, now when everybody, not everybody, but most people are going to take a hit. So I especially appreciate any support that people are giving. And actually, a couple people actually supported today, and I really thank you for that greatly, especially given what's going on. Let me go to the bottom here. Barbara Summit, USA has a military ship with a lot of soldiers, got a virus asking for help. Actually, I got something from the Navy. Let me read it to you. You reminded me. I have to turn on this phone. I can read it to you. Or maybe I can pull it up on my iPad. It's a letter from the Navy. Let's see here. Actually, a lot of people on my Patreon, they don't realize this goes live because I'm having a hard time. There's a lot of tech issues in making this happen. Like it won't live feed out to my Patreon. I've contacted Patreon so many times. It just still doesn't work. So you have to sign up for my Facebook or YouTube, preferably my YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope, because at least one of those should alert you when I go live. And you never know when I'm going to go live with something really super important, because people that followed my work for a while know that sometimes I come up with something that's pretty important. And so you'll need to. Here we go. This is from the Department of Navy, 30 March 2020. So subject request for assistance in response to COVID-19 pandemic. Let me get this over here. I'll read it to you. This is from the Navy. in that sort of format, by the way. Oh, okay, I'll just read it to you. Subject, this, okay, from the Department of the Navy, USS Theodore Roosevelt, which is our aircraft carrier. Subject, request for assistance in response to COVID-19 pandemic. Bluff, which means bottom line up front. If required, the USS Theodore Roosevelt would embark all assigned sailors, set sail, and be ready to fight and beat any adversary that dares challenge the U.S. or our allies. The virus would certainly have an impact, but in combat, we are willing to take certain risks that are not acceptable in peacetime. However, we are not at war and therefore cannot allow a single sailor to perish as a result of this pandemic unnecessarily. Decisive action is required now in order to comply with CDC and NAV Admin 083/20 guidance and prevent tragic outcomes. Number one, problem statement. This is from the Department of Navy regarding the aircraft carrier USS Theodore Roosevelt. Paragraph 1, problem statement. With the crew embarked, Teddy Roosevelt is unable to comply with CDC protocols or NAV admin so-and-so guidance. Based on CDC guidelines and Teddy Roosevelt observations, the only effective method to preserve an individual's health is total isolation for 14 plus days in accordance with NAV admin, individual hotel barracks rooms with separate heads. Heads is Navy talk for restrooms. Due to warships' inherent limitations of space, we are not doing this. The spread of the disease is ongoing and accelerating. That's on one of our aircraft carriers. Number two, inappropriate focus on testing. Testing has no direct influence on the spread of COVID-19 virus. It merely confirms the presence of the virus. Due to the close quarters required on a warship and the current number of positive cases, every single sailor, regardless of rank, on board the Teddy Roosevelt aircraft carrier must be considered close contact. In accordance with NAV admin, testing will only be useful as the ship returns to work after isolation or quarantine to confirm the effectiveness of the quarantine period. Our focus now must be on quarantine and isolation in strict compliance with CDC and NAV admin guidance. The COVID-19 test cannot prove a sailor does not have the virus. It can only prove that a soldier does. As an illustration, of the first 33 Teddy Roosevelt sailors diagnosed with COVID-19, 21%, 7 of those 33 infected sailors, were negative for COVID-19 test, then subsequently presented with symptoms of COVID-19 infection with 1 to 3 days post-test, within 1 to 3 days post-test. Based on data, since Teddy Roosevelt's first case, that's our aircraft, one of our aircraft carriers, approximately 21% of sailors that tested negative are currently moving into group restricted movement ashore, and currently infected will develop symptoms over the next several days and will proceed to infect the remainder of their shore-based restricted group. Number three, inappropriate quarantine and isolation. With the exception of a handful of senior officer staterooms, none of the berthing on board a warship is appropriate for quarantine isolation. Thousands of close contact sailors require quarantine in accordance with guidance. Teddy Roosevelt aircraft carrier has begun to move personnel off ship into shore-based group-restricted movement locations. Of the off-ship locations currently available, only one complies with NAV admin guidance. Infected sailors inside of these off-ship locations. 2 sailors have already tested positive in an open bay gymnasium equipped with cots. Although marginally better than a warship, group quarantine sites are not a solution and are not in accordance with current guidance. In order to stop the spread of the virus, the CDC and the Navy and Marine Corps Public Health Center both recommend individual quarantine. They both recommend against group quarantine. They recommend limited or no contact with other exposed individuals and no use of the same facilities or items exposed individuals have touched. nav admin 083/20 echoes this guidance. The environment most conducive to spread of the disease is the environment the crew of the Teddy Roosevelt is in right now, both aboard ship and ashore. A. Large amounts of sailors in confined space. B. Open shared berthing. C. Shared restroom facilities. D. Confined shared workspaces and computers. E. Shared messing for large numbers. F. Meals cooked, food provided by exposed personnel. G. Mandatory watch operational tasks demanding consistent close contact, food preparation, service and cleaning, TFCC watches, unavoidable meetings to plan and execute COVID response actions, etc. H. Movement about the ship requires consistent close contact with other exposed individuals, confined passageways, previously touched ladder railings, hatch levers, doorknobs, etc. Paragraph 4. Ineffectiveness of current strategy. Based on current limitations, lack of appropriate quarantine and isolation facilities, inability to effectively achieve social distancing, Teddy Roosevelt has instituted limited measures to slow the spread of the disease. We have moved a small percentage of the crew off ship, increased the frequency of thorough cleaning, and attempted some social distancing. The current strategy will only slow the spread. The current plan and execution on Teddy Roosevelt will not achieve virus eradication on any timeline. Paragraph 5. Lessons learned from the Diamond Princess. From an epidemiological research article on COVID-19 infection on board Diamond Princess, the only comparable situation encountered thus far, titled COVID-19 Outbreak on the Diamond Princess cruise ship, estimating the epidemic potential and effectiveness of public health countermeasures. Cruise ships carry a large, this is from the study, cruise ships carry a large number of people in confined spaces with relative homogeneous mixing. On 3 February 2020, an outbreak of COVID-19 on cruise ship Diamond Princess was reported following an index case on board about 21 to 25 January. By 4 February, public health measures such as removal and isolation of ill passengers and quarantine of non-ill passengers were implemented. By 20 February, 619 of 3,700 passengers and crew, 17%, were tested positive. We estimated that without any interventions within the time period of 21 January to 19 February, 2,920 of the 3,700, 79%, would have been infected. Isolation and quarantine therefore prevented 2,307 cases. We showed that an early evacuation of all passengers 3 February would have been associated with 76 infected persons as opposed to 619. Yeah, plague ship. The final sentence of the abstract. Conclusions. The cruise ship conditions clearly amplified an already transmissible disease. The public health measures prevented more than 2,000 additional cases compared to no interventions. However, evacuating all passengers and crew early on in the outbreak would have prevented many more passengers and crew from infection. The Diamond Princess was able to more effectively isolate people on board than Teddy Roosevelt, that's the aircraft carrier, due to much higher percentage of individualization, compartmentalization, accommodations on board for paying customers. Their measures still allowed hundreds of people to become infected. Teddy Roosevelt's best case results, given the current environment, are likely to be much worse. That's one of our aircraft carriers. Paragraph 6, proposed new strategy. There are two end states Teddy Roosevelt could achieve. A, maximize warfighting readiness and capacity as quickly as possible. No timeline necessary. We go to war with the force we have and fight sick. We never achieve a COVID-19 free Teddy Roosevelt. There will be losses to the virus, meaning fatalities. Paragraph B, achieve a COVID-free Teddy Roosevelt requires strict adherence to CDC guidelines and a methodical approach to achieve a clean ship. This requires immediate and decisive action. It will take time and money. As war is not imminent, Remember what I said more than a month ago when our Navy starts doing this work and then become imminent. Anyway, as war is not imminent, we recommend pursuing the peacetime end state. Teddy Roosevelt has two primary goals in order to achieve that end state: prevent unnecessary deaths, reduce the number of sailors that contract COVID 19, and eliminate further virus spread. Regain and maximize, paragraph B, or sentence B, regain and maximize warfighting readiness and capacity as quickly as possible. In order to achieve these goals, a clean ship is required. Every sailor on board must be guaranteed virus free, and the ship environment must be disinfected. One infected sailor introduced to the ship will spread the virus. Off ship lodging in compliance with CDC and NAV admin guidance is required for over 4,000 sailors to achieve a clean ship and crew. Paragraph 7, conclusion. Decisive action is required. Removing the majority of personnel from a deployed U.S. nuclear aircraft carrier and isolating them for 2 weeks may seem like an extraordinary measure. A portion of the crew, approximately 10%, would have to stay aboard to run the reactor plant, sanitize the ship, ensure security, and provide the contingency response to emergencies. This is a necessary risk. It will enable the carrier and air wing to get back underway as quickly as possible while ensuring the health and safety of our sailors. Keeping over 4,000 young men and women on the Teddy Roosevelt is an unnecessary risk and breaks faith with those sailors entrusted to our care. There are challenges associated with securing the individualized lodging for our crew. This will require a political solution, but it is the right thing to do. We are not at war. Sailors do not need to die. If we do not act now, we are failing to properly take care of our most trusted asset, our sailors. Request all available resources to find NAV admin and CDC compliant quarantine rooms for my entire crew as soon as possible. B.E. Crozier, whoever that is. Is that the commander? No, that's the Secretary of the Navy, right? Let's see, I believe. All right, there you go. Nuclear aircraft carrier, Theodore Roosevelt. I should have read that to you earlier. I'm sorry, I get so much communications and important stuff like that, and I read them and I put them in my head, but I don't always tell you where I'm getting all this information because it's just too much. Not that I'm hiding it; it's just I'm reading it so much that. Are you saying my microphone got? War is not imminent, Nick Wu said. All hands turn to commence field day. All right, let's see. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer them right now. If not, I'm going to go ahead and shut off. Let's see. Colin Smith, in areas where the virus hasn't hit yet or in its conspiracy. Huh. All right. Mike Morgan, preventing infections on any ship will be impossible. Fact. I don't know what the facts are, but I'll tell you one thing. I think they need to get our ship and our sailors off that ship. And until that time, I would have a lot of them up on the sunning on the roof. They must have some tents. If not, they can fly them in as an aircraft carrier. Let's see. All right. Hey, Nate. Nate says, hi, I'm Michael. What do you say to people who say our rights are being taken away, freedom of assembly, etc.? A lot of religious groups are concerned about that right now. They're dumber than dog shit. I would arrest them. That preacher in Florida, the mega church, he did get arrested. And I think one in Louisiana as well, right? Excuse me for my language, but this is very serious and this is not a joke. And I think all intelligent people realize at this point that when they're bringing a nuclear aircraft carrier, or that's what the Department of Navy is requesting, that's clearly a letter to the president, by the way. That's not a letter. I mean, that's clearly going to the Department of Navy. It came from them, so it goes to Department of Defense, obviously. It's just, that's basically a letter to the president is what that is. When we can't afford to have that. The fact that we're still having any groups of people together at all is a tragedy. We're going to take huge casualties in the United States, huge casualties. The Dr. Fauci estimated maybe 100,000 or 200,000. It could be that high. I think he's trying to meet. I think he's trying to play nice. I think he's trying not to spark. I I wouldn't doubt if it's over a million. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know. Nobody knows. And also, if therapeutics turn out to work, maybe it'll be much, much less. Who knows? I don't know. But if anybody is counting on a vaccine, they're not paying attention. And so the fatalities will be higher for this, uh, possibly than any war the United States has ever been in, by far, actually. We'll see. Hey, Melanie. You're reading my book, Danger Close. Yeah, that was the worst thing that happened in my life. Actually, was the loss of my mother. Gladys is saying, sounds really bad. It is very bad. Actually, but Melanie, when you're saying like you're reading my book, Danger Close, so I mean this pandemic for me, no matter what happens, will never be as bad as me losing my mother when I was 7. Nothing in my whole life has even come close to that. That's why I always tell like these parents now that have children and they're out there, maybe taking a risk with this disease. I can't, I, no matter what happens with this virus, it's hard for me to imagine for the impact on me as a 7-year-old losing my mother. I'm just saying, mothers and fathers really need to take care of themselves. Because you don't want to leave your kids behind. Yeah, yeah, Greg, USS Teddy Roosevelt, the first case of what you predicted for U.S. Navy. Remember, way back when, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, I was saying, this was going to hit our Navy and it's going to end up. That's why we should keep all of our ships out to sea, right? Don't bring anybody on or off the ships until this bad boy is burned through, which could be pretty tough. Or if we took them off the ships, they need to go on some, deserted island somewhere. You know what I mean? They needed to be away from, no chance that we start taking our ships offline. Now we're just about to lose a nuclear aircraft carrier offline. Of course, they could still go fight, but it would be unnecessary fatalities. And how many people would be laid up sick if 10% of the ship were laid up and unable to function? And also, I wonder what the infectious disease experts would say about that close quarters with the virus like that, because, man, then the people are getting huge doses of the virus. I think they would need to be up on the deck, actually. But I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but they up in the sunlight, up out, not on the, certainly not down below decks. But they're smart officers and sailors, and I'm sure they figured that out in about 30 seconds. They're probably out all on the deck. I don't know. He just says, how about 5G? I don't know. People keep asking me about that. I'm not even going to think about that now. I think it could be conspiracy stuff. But, our nuclear aircraft carriers, I scratched my face, but I've actually, there's the chances of any virus being in my home are quite low at this point. Or at least that virus. Our nuclear submarines should be kept to sea, or if they come in, it needs to be like super duper base quarantine. We can't afford to be taking all of our ships off the sea. That my imagination runs wild with what some of our enemies would do. Their capacity to do mayhem at this point, Iran, as an example, or North Korea, of course, and all the likely suspects, China. It's going to hurt our ability to recruit as well, because they're not going to be holding basic training classes and that sort of thing. So, I mean, this can severely affect the readiness of our military. And I want to say again, make sure that if it's within your capacity to do so, support at least one medical person, doctor or nurse or EMT or something, law enforcement or military or truck driver or somebody that we need on the front line. Support at least one person. If it's one nurse, one doctor, one truck driver, one policeman, FBI, DEA, whatever, help at least one person. If we all help at least one person, we're going to be good to go. It's going to be it's going to be problems. We know that. There's no way around that. But we'll get through it. We're going to get through it. We're just going to take a lot of casualties. And so the more we are prepared in our minds for that, the easier it'll be to get through those tough times when we're prepared for them in advance. It's a huge difference if you've mentally prepared for it. Melanie, you're saying it's so good. Are you talking about my book, Danger Close? I appreciate it. That was my first book. When I published Danger Close, it was the only book with that title. There was no other book with the title Danger Close. Now there's like 20 books with that title. So if you look up Danger Close on Amazon, you'll find like 20 other books. And one was written by a Delta Force commander, and one was written by I know her sister actually, and but now there's so many. It's caused a lot of confusion. Let's see. Jim Devaney is saying, I'm currently a tugboater stuck on shore. My company tows freight to Alaska. Alaska has imposed strict quarantine regulations. The crews currently operating boats are not allowed to disembark. Actually, that's smart. When they return to Seattle, they are keeping the same crews on the boats indefinitely. That's smart. I mean, that's the smart thing to do. Thanks, Jane. I mean, that's the smart thing to do is to keep those. I don't want to see all of our aircraft carriers either, in dock somewhere, or we have to keep some to sea and take super high casualties, and that's just like, no. I mean, if we go to war, then that's the way it is, and I mean, I'll go out with them. I mean, you know what I mean? I won't say our Navy should do it and and just go do it, go die on the death ship. I'll do it with them. You know what I mean? I'll email the Navy and say, hey, I'll go with you. You know what I mean? I'll say what's going on out here. I'll take my own chances too. And they'll probably say, no, you'll just become part of the problem. But at the same time, it's a difficult situation. And we had chances to take this seriously. I wonder what the Surgeon General is going to say. He's a Navy officer, right? I wonder what the Surgeon General is going to say. Is he going to say, he's a naval officer, is he going to tell all the sailors you should be wearing masks or you shouldn't be wearing masks? That clown has been telling millions of people not to wear masks. Weston says, Michael, FYI, according to this site, keep your N95 out of the sunlight. UV, it messes with the static of the polypropylene, which is key to protection. I saw that. I published that earlier today. Let's see. Mike says, no supplies heading to... our sailors, we need to keep them out to sea, or they have to be... They're too important. I mean, we can't afford, whether it's merchant marines, whether it's Jim on tugboat or those sorts of things. We need to they've become even more important than they ever were, and they were always important. This is one of those moments where it's like we need to really guard our assets, like our Navy ships that have not come in from sea since this has really picked up. They need to. It's like, hey, your sea tour has just been extended. If we go to port anywhere to do whatever they have to do, everybody stays on the boat, that sort of thing, or at least stays in a position that there's no chance that we can take this whole ship offline. We can't afford to do that. Let's see. I'll answer a few more questions. And then Kathy Lindahl is saying, just don't get too brave because you are wearing a mask. You still have to distance yourself. Oh yeah, even when I'm uh, like my dog Barney, she's got a problem. So, and I love my dog Barney, so I was willing to take a chance to take her to the vet the other day. But I'm wearing mask and gloves and all that. But I still kept distance, of course. I mean, it's not like, hey, I got my mask on, so let's go hug. It's not. No way. You're still keeping double arms distance minimum while all of us have masks on, and I was wearing gloves as well. SB Lewis, Mike, the Surgeon General was called out on national television by Tucker Carlson last night. Same points you made weeks ago. It's unbelievable, man. That Surgeon General, he is pathetic. He's going to be taught in the things that the Surgeon General has been saying, and the president and others have been saying. This is going to go down in history. This huge casualties that we're not even started yet. And they keep talking about the peak could be 2 weeks or a month. They're insane. You don't have to be an infectious disease expert to realize it just landed in New York, basically. It didn't just land, of course, but that's the first big shot right there. But it's going to start hitting cities all over the United States, not to mention around Europe, like Italy and Spain are getting ravaged right now, as are some others. And Iran already has, China, of course. And I really think Japan is going to get hit. My Japanese friends are still, I think, in denial. And some of the Hong Kongers, though, are coming around to it and starting to realize. And Singaporeans, they've taken really great steps, as have South Koreans. But it's still gonna be there. They're mitigating it quite a lot. But here in Thailand, I think Thailand's going to get punched in the face just like America. It's just going to be like a lot of Thais are like Americans when it comes to this. There are some who take it very seriously. And then there's others who are just like, don't worry, be happy. It's just the flu. You got Thais saying the same thing Americans say. And then other Thais taking it very, very seriously. But just remember what I kept saying about the supply chains, because I can't emphasize enough to buy at least 4 months of supplies now. That's not a lot of money, really. When you look at what I should show you some of my rice. You can get rice. You can get like kilos and kilos and kilos of rice for like, a few dollars. I mean, how much is it? It's cheap, cheap, cheap. It's not expensive at all. You might think 4 months, that's thousands of dollars. Not really. Not if you get a bunch of dry rice and a bunch of different kinds of beans and, that sort of stuff. It's not really that expensive, actually. But just make sure you get a lot of spices and other things that you like to eat. And if you're from the South, you're going to have to calculate your basic bacon load. Because, if you're from the South and you run out of bacon, then that's tantamount to just running out of food, period. If you run out of grits and bacon, of course, there'll be riots in the streets. Megan says, rice is sold out in stores in New York for weeks now. Man, you see, that's a problem with the big cities. As you know, the population density. And this is something that has happened time and time and time again in history, right? The cities obviously are great places to live when everything is cool and everything's functioning, but then they become dystopias the moment everything breaks down. And this is one of those times. The population density then works massively against it. Melanie says, against recommendations not to, a choir director held choir near Seattle March 6th. 60 people attended, 45 tested positive, 3 hospitalized, and 2 dead from COVID-19. Man, you can't make up this stuff. I mean, these preachers that are, maybe they don't want to lose money or something to have, if they don't have their big attendances or whatever. I wonder, speaking of that, I wonder what habits will change from this, because, it takes a couple of months to really, depends on what you're talking about, but it can take a couple of months to really, really change a pattern, right? Like super change a pattern. Like if you've been exercising straight for a couple months, there's a good chance you'll keep right on going, right? But you got to get through that first part. But I will guarantee you that April won't be the last of quarantines in the United States. Either that, or we just open everything up, and everybody just lets it burn through, and we take huge casualties, right? Or maybe something in between, which is tantamount to letting it burn through, which is going to do in the United States anyway, because of the way I've been all over America. It's going to burn through. But the yeah, the bottom line is, it's not going to be finished by April. It's not going to be finished by April 30th. It's not going to be finished by the end of June. It's not. It's going to keep going. And remember, just because it peaks doesn't mean it's like ended, because after it peaks, it will probably diminish. Well, maybe logarithmically as well, but still, look how long it's taken to peak up, and there's a lot of casualties as it goes to peak. And then after it peaks and starts to go down, there'll still be a lot of casualties, and it'll still be really super dangerous, right? It's not like it just, oh, we've peaked. Okay, open the stores now because we peaked out. That's the last time you would want to open the doors, is just because it peaked out. Yes, they keep talking about this like, well, it's going to peak and then everything will get back to normal. It's like, are you crazy? That's like, okay, the fire is as hot as it's ever been right now. It's starting to come down maybe, but let's just open up now. That would be an epic error, obviously, which maybe China's apparently doing right now. They get into this. We're getting into the same situation where if you open up, it's just like giving oxygen to the fire again. It's giving bodies to the virus. Yeah, cheapo. There's going to be a big baby boom in 9 months. Well, that's one good thing, because we're going to need some new babies, because we're going to lose a lot of people. Just imagine how this is going to change demographics in so many countries, or our habits. For instance, let's say, how big sports have been since forever. What will sports be like if it's, several months from now before any of them are seriously playing again, or just next season, right? More realistically. And so you've gone for 6 months, and let's say you're somebody that loves to watch sports all the time. Like, I don't care anymore. The only sports I like to watch are like MMA. I don't care about anything else really. It's funny because the Army, after I went into the Army and things were just so serious, professional sports just didn't seem as serious to me anymore. Except MMA. I love to watch martial arts and stuff. But I wonder about people's habits. Like, once your habit has been broken, I wonder what this will do to book reading. Actually, there's probably a lot of people reading books now that have never really sat down. And if you're like me, once that good feeling you get when you read a really great book, and you're learning a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? And then you finish the book. There's I call it like bookphoria, you know what I mean? Like, you get to librophoria. It's just a word I made up. When you get to the end of a book and you're like, man, that was a great book. Some books are so good you almost want to eat them. You know what I mean? It's like, and so I wonder how many people will just, like, for instance, even stop watching sports because they just changed habits. Now they are into something else. I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see in a few years how this is. Yeah. Jarno saying, try using nuts, which is high in protein. Actually, I've got a lot more stuff just besides rice. I don't have just rice. I'm just saying, if you're short on money and and you're like, it's going to be too expensive. Actually, rice isn't very expensive, and dry beans are not very expensive. There is actually a lot of very inexpensive food that you can stock up for months, no problem. And storage, like rice, like certain types, like jasmine rice, and from Thailand, super good. It'll outlast you. You can put it in the freezer, and it'll stay like forever. You know what I mean? So you'll see some online, they'll be like, it'll stay for like 6 months. But in reality, rice, if you store it well, I think some of the brown rices with some kind of oil. So be careful. Check what I'm telling you before you do it. Some of those might actually start to go bad after some months or so. I'm not sure about that. But other types of rice, you can eat it like 30 years later. So I mean, it just get the right kind, and then you're good to go, and you won't lose any. See what Kelly's saying here. Kelly, Michael, I was sick as a dog in January. I never went to the doctor, but was sick for more than 3 weeks. Friends who had similar symptoms all tested negative for the flu. We have been wondering if we already had it back in January. Did anyone experience that? I hope you did. I hope you did, and I hope you're completely healthy and you can't get it again, because you're going to be really important to be out there. You need to get tested for that. Jesse says, many nutritious grains you can experiment with. Quinoa is good. I've got some of that, but not as long shelf life as the rice, but you can freeze to keep it from going rancid. Yeah. There's all kinds of good stuff you can get. And I don't know what you mean by a good choice of words, Melanie, but if it was me, thank you. Let's see. Jenna Thacker saying, it seems like unless the U.S. does a national lockdown, it'll just keep getting passed around as people keep traveling from state to state. Yeah, see, that's the problem. See, it sounds like you said something very, very serious with one sentence. That one little sentence that you wrote is like it in a nutshell. That's the problem. I mean, it's not just at state level and city level. Remember, I've been saying lock it down since about late January, and get control, and we could do testing and that sort. But and so it's too late for that. I mean, the fire's everywhere now. But again, this also, remember, this isn't just within, say, New York. It's obviously, as you well get, Jenna Thacker, it's also national level, but also international. Like we got Canada and Mexico, but then the rest of Europe and Asia as well. So even if South Korea, I was just talking with some journalists about this a couple of days ago, like South Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong. Well, Hong Kong government's they're Beijing lackeys, but the people are highly disciplined. And so they've slowed it down for now, but it's going to pick up, I'm quite sure. South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, they've done really well with this, right? But ultimately, all of us, all the others, like the United States, who have behaved like tree monkeys, like we've been behaving like literally like monkeys doing drugs up in a tree, like doing incredibly stupid things. South Korea and Taiwan and Singapore, who've done so well with this, exemplary. If we all behaved like they did, this would be no problem. If China behaved like that, we would not be talking right now. We wouldn't even know about it. We would have never heard about it. It might be a few sentences in the back of some journal somewhere, right? If China had gotten on it like South Korea has done, or Taiwan, or Singapore, we never would have heard about it. It would have been like done deal. But they didn't. And then most of us screwed up, including the United States. And so the countries, now what's South Korea going to do, really? I mean, are you going to just open up? Now, South Korea, you can get tested in minutes. They can literally test you in minutes. Like you land at the airport and you get tested, right? And meanwhile, Maddie took about 12 days or so to get her test results back. Tommy Barrios says, I sent N95 masks to my children in February, and they thought I was overreacting. Guess what they say now? Yeah, Tommy, see, you're bringing up that important thing. People who are properly prepared, if you're really properly prepared, you normally look like a kook. Because if you're really properly prepared, you have more than you need, right? You have a reserve parachute. Like, what are you carrying that reserve parachute for? The main chute almost never fails. Well, we're in a situation now where the chance of your main food supply failing is pretty serious. And that means the food supply that's at your, look, Vietnam and some other countries have already stopped exporting a lot of, like, I think Vietnam may have stopped with rice, right? I'm not sure about that. And Thailand has clamped down on exports, for instance, of eggs and some other things. India has clamped down on exporting drugs. So there's all these things. Imagine when all of a sudden you're like, hey, there's plenty of food in the store, and you're in some X country, right? And then China cuts off exports of rice, and Vietnam cuts off exports of rice, and other countries do. And then some other country has a war, and then all these different and thens happen, and then the next thing you know, wow, the next thing you know, millions of people are in famine. That stuff can happen so fast. That can literally happen 1 month from now. I mean, literally 1 month from now, a million people could be in famine 1 month from now. That fast. I don't think it will that fast, but but that there will be famines. Oh, I would bet super high odds that there'll be famines, and we won't necessarily be able to help out in a lot of situations. I mean, if there's a huge famine in India, I mean, who's got enough food? You know what I mean? And there could be multiple famines at once and wars, and these can impact all of our food supplies, right? So, and a war on the high seas, think about what I just read to you from the U.S. Navy. U.S. aircraft carrier, Department of Navy wants to bring in one of our aircraft carriers. Rest assured, there's others, right? And rest assured, it's dawned on them instantly that we don't really want to tell the enemy that we're pulling in 50% of our naval assets, right? Uh, or whatever percent. I'm just throwing that out there. I have no evidence on that. But I mean, but even so, even if we tried to keep it secret, it's hard to bring in a bunch of ships without everybody noticing, right? And then it's easy for countries to start interrupting and interfering with sea travel, whether it be pirates or whether it be something else. And that can affect fuel supplies. It can affect shipping, right? I can't stress enough. You should have at least 4 months food supply. I cannot stress that enough. And it's very serious. Alan says, "Wow, Michael, you are so much ahead of others in so many things. Stay safe. My wife ordered mask 2 months ago, and now I get where did you get mask? Thank you." Yeah, Australia has a huge unemployment now, but got the army making masks. Think mostly for hospitals. Wow, our politicians, at least one, should have been following you. I have never doubted you. I have seen everything you have been saying come true. Why do people call me an idiot because of you telling me the future? Yeah, I went to Australia about 3 years ago or something, and I went to Strathfield, and I met with some city council people, and I was warning them. I went there on a mission, basically to interfere with the Chinese information war. So there was some information operations going on from China there, and I flew there to try to stop and to counterattack, and it was successful actually. But successful in that battle, but that's just one battle. But anyway, that's why I was in Australia. I was in Australia specifically because of Chinese information war operations in Strathfield, and that was about 3 years ago, right? Something like that, maybe four. So I mean, I've been on this for a long time. So, but when it comes to what comes next is what's important to us. I would, even if you have 4 months supply of food, that's your bare minimum. I mean, if you live out in Nebraska or Alaska or something like that, and your population density is very low, and there's all kinds of goose and geese and ducks and bears and everything else that you can eat, then might not be a big deal when you got a gazillion salmon come up the river every year. And you know how to, prepare. But if you live in a big city, I just cannot stress enough that you be really, really, really stocked up. And like, you should stock up to the point where you go, this is kind of crazy. I'll never go through all this part. Because remember, if you've prepared correctly, you'll look a little crazy. And right now, still the supply chains are mostly still quite open. But they're going to start getting stressed here, my guess, in the United States, by the end of April is what I'm guessing based on what I'm seeing and like who do I believe, my guess is they're going to start getting stressed by probably end of April. Certainly, if you get into summertime, because this is not going to suddenly go away with the summer. This is only going up. The problems are only increasing. They're not leveling out. Get your food. The prices are going to go up. Patsy says, my daughter and I both had something about two. Yeah. Both had something for about 2 weeks back in January and have never been sicker. Flu and pneumonia test, both negative and so sick. Mine was called a bronchitis virus, treated with antibiotics. Patsy, I've seen some of the people online talk, and remember how sick Maddie said she felt. And some of the people online that make these videos, and they're young and quite healthy, and you can tell there's like, one of them said it was just like the worst thing ever. Like every day she thought she was going to die, and now she's recovered. And Jesse Taylor saying, me too, that lasted until February with horrendous headache. Urgent care said no flu, but bronchitis. Fever for only 2 days, though. Barry Hendelson, UK had a peak of private flights last 2 days. Rich go to their remote vacation houses. If they're smart, they're out on their yachts and stuff, or out on their islands. And they should be prepared to defend those islands or those yachts. Who's going to defend them if our Navy's off the seas? You see where this could go, right? NATO has not been NATO. The European countries and other members of NATO have not been keeping their militaries in tip-top shape. Now, U.S. military could have severe problems and having to take care of just the home front. And, for years, people have been talking trash about the United States has more defense spending than the other 8,000 countries combined or whatever, right? Okay, listen, there's a reason for that. It's because you clowns aren't paying for your militaries, and we have been. And you need to pay for them because it's too late. Because right now, what happens when the United States is off the high seas, right? Which could happen very quickly. And the British Navy, what's left of it, same thing's going to happen to them, and the Aussies and the Japanese, and it's going to happen to everybody. Thai Navy, it's going to happen to everybody. So who's going to be running the seas out there? You think North Korea is going to care if some bunch of their shipmates get sick? You know what I mean? Not that North Korea has a giant navy, but they can certainly, and China can certainly cause a lot of problems on the high seas. They could certainly, for instance, start to do an embargo on Taiwan. China could just not let any supplies get into Taiwan, and they could do the same to Japan, right? They could say, hey, Japan, no more ships go to Japan. And Japan can say, nope, we'll fight back. So then you end up in a war, right? But what's Taiwan going to do? They can fight back, of course, but where's their backup going to come from? So, I mean, don't think that this stuff is lost on the Chinese or on others out there. For instance, pirates. And pirates can exact a huge toll when they're out, when there's no Navy out to interdict. Because we do a lot of interdiction. Steve Hayes says, South Korea has just been on the news in the UK. The testing is good, and they're taking it really seriously. They are. And the problem, Steve, is that the United States and other countries, we're so far behind, it's too late to catch up. We're like, it's time to build a fire truck after everything's on fire. It's not going to work. We totally failed at the surveillance point. We didn't really fail. It was obvious. Listen, I was on it in January, as were a few others. There were a few others that were on it back in January that were not even infectious disease experts. And by the way, people keep hitting me with the hantavirus thing. I am watching that. It doesn't seem like a serious threat to us at this point. Maybe some issues in India. I'm unclear on that. But the uh, if the hantavirus starts to look like something I need to bring to your attention, I will bring it to your attention that same day. But I don't see that at this point being. I am watching it though. I'm watching it through expert eyes, not through my own, and I'm trying to figure out who knows what. Obviously, I'm not going to believe the American Surgeon General. Not that he's mentioned it. Maybe he has. I doubt it. You're welcome, Terry. I hope everything's good up in Ohio. Good. Terry says, thank you from Ohio for all you are doing. I am stocked up thanks to your work, your words of warning. Good job. Good job. You know who's not going to be affected much by this will be like Amish people. You guys got a lot of Amish up in Ohio. Very good people, too. Amish will be like, oh, the electricity went out. So what? You know what I mean? Amish will be like, whatever. Amish will be like, oh, the stores are empty. Okay. Just be like, giddy up. Yeah, my niece made it. If you're talking to me, Melanie, she made it back from Canada. Um, Everybody, if you haven't gotten to your hard point yet, remember, I've been saying since January, go to the place where you want to wear this out. Some people at this point are not. You're just not going to make it back. It's too late. You screwed up. You know what I mean? You're not. You're not going to make it back in time. It's funny. I've gotten a lot of messages from people, Westerners, and or have family that got stuck in Thailand or whatever. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Thailand is a very nice place. If you're going to get stuck anywhere, Thailand's a great place to get stuck. Except don't get sick. The hospitals are going to get filled up here just like everywhere else. And so, so there you go with that. Kelly Renee says, took a couple of classes with one of the lawyers defending Vietnam and Philippines on South China Sea lawsuits. China is going to take advantage of the situation, in my opinion. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was watching that case. Yeah, I mean, the with the Philippines in particular. But you can count on it if they feel like they're in a position. Also, China may want a distraction, right? And China, they've built a lot of infrastructure with those artificial islands that many of us have complained about. Uh, but remember, their temporary advantage that they may have now, maybe they don't. This is unclear because we're unclear about how much internal strife that they have within China right now, right? Because they could have their own civil war possibly. So I don't know what's going to happen with them. Nobody does, and they probably don't either. I'm sure they don't. All right, I'm going to go ahead and let's see. What does Mike Morgan says? I got my wife's mask at an online mold removal site in Washington State. Got it in 2 days. Now they are out of stock until May 15th. All right. I'm going to go ahead and Angela Holloway, just saw yours coming. Hi, Mike. FYI, you were also correct about storm season and power outages. Pensacola and Atlanta discovered that today. Take care. And thanks so much for keeping us informed. What happened there? I'll have to look it up. I'll have to look it up. Let's see. What happened with... I'll have to look that up. Just be prepared for power outages and be prepared for water outages. And I mean, like, not like it's going to come back on next week. Be prepared to really have no power for an extended length of time. This is no drill. Mike out.